Hello, welcome to a new video. Today I am bringing you my May wrap up and the end of Royal Readathon, and I did complete all the prompts. Woo! So I read a total of 16 books, which is a really good month for me. I did DNF one book, not so great. I did have a feeling before I started reading it that I would not enjoy it, but I was hoping I could have at least finished the book, but it wasn't happening. I read a total of 4,412 pages and listened to 24.5 hours of audiobooks. Okay. Not as much audiobook listening this month. Usually it's in the 30s. But rating wise, I had a really good month. So I had no 2 stars, 1 3-star, 6 4-stars and 9 5-stars, and only one of those books was a reread. So they were almost all new reads for me, and I'm very happy with that, like quality as well as quantity. Like yes. So before we get stuck in, we'll talk about the DNF quickly. So I did DNF The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. I'm going to be honest, I don't know how many pages I got into it. How many pages did I get into it? I got 84 pages into this. I just wasn't a fan. It was making me really uncomfortable. Like, whilst I do appreciate the time period it's set in, where, you know, women, like, don't have the option to live their own lives, but it was just, and I appreciate that in that time period, girls were basically just like sold off for marriage, essentially, because that's essentially what happened. And it just made me feel really uncomfortable with the constant thoughts, oh, but if I do this, I'm not going to be a good future wife. And it's like, this girl is like 12, 13. She shouldn't be thinking about like getting married. Like, it's a bit different from being like, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to meet the love of my life and get married. No, this is very much like, oh, I mustn't behave this way because otherwise my dad might not be able to find me a suitable husband. No. It made me feel really uncomfortable. And whilst I do know that that is the time period it was set in, it was giving me the ick, and I just couldn't continue. Even the fantasy side of it wasn't gripping me enough to keep me interested, so I just DNF'd it. But let's just dive in and I'll share what I read. Okay, so first up, we started strong and I read Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake. This was a 5-star. I absolutely adored this book. It was looking to be my favourite of the month, but then I read another book, which we'll get to. I really enjoyed this. I actually liked this more than I liked Delilah Green Doesn't Care. I did like the character development of certain characters from the previous book and the way it's sort of starting to set up the third book. I'm really enjoying the friendship groups in this. Or the friendship group rather. I'm just really enjoying these stories, and like just this, just Astrid. Yes. Next up is the only 3-star I had, and that was Only a Monster by Vanessa Len. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember much of this. I have removed it from my memory. So I was buddy reading this with Catherine, and neither of us were really enjoying it as much as we would have liked. This is why I'm a bit dubious about reading YA fantasy recently, because this felt more juvenile than it should have. Like, I appreciate that it is YA fantasy. However, the main character, I believe, is like 16, 17 in this. And a lot of the times she came across like she was like 13. She just felt a lot younger than she was supposed to be. And I just wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of the love interest. I wasn't a fan of the little twist in this. Nothing about this was good for me. I know a few people have absolutely loved this book, and that is completely fair, obviously. But for me, it's a no. In a way, my bank account is very glad because the main reason we read this month was because Fairy Loot are doing a matching sequel. I will not be purchasing that. I have actually already unhauled this. It's gone. Bye bye. So yeah. Next up, we had Stranger Things and Dungeons and Dragons by Jodie Hauser. This was a 5-star. I really enjoyed this. This was basically all the little D&D playing parts that we don't get to see with the group, which happen in between all the monster fighting between series. And it was just so much fun. It starts off with obviously just Lucas, Mike and Will, and then they meet Dustin and they start playing this game, and it was just so fun. And then obviously they meet Elle, and then they meet Max, and it's bringing those two into it, and Nancy, and it was just such a fun time. And it was so much of a comfort read, because if you're a fan of Stranger Things like me, you just want nice things for the characters, because they go through some stuff in that show. And it was just nice to see them just having a fun time outside of all the monster fighting. So I very much enjoyed this. Next up, we had The Little Brooklyn Bakery by Julie Kaplan. I am so close to being caught up with all of Julie Kaplan's current releases. This was a 4-star. I really enjoyed this. I think this might be my like second or third favourite of the Julie Kaplan books I've read. I really enjoyed this. Like, it is nowhere near The Little Cafe in Copenhagen. That is forever at the top, favourite. But I really enjoyed this. I really liked the characters. The actual storyline was really cute. And whilst I wasn't a fan of why she ends up in Brooklyn, I'm very happy with how it was handled. And it was just, I just really love Julie Kaplan's books. They make me happy. Next up, we have the first one I can physically hold up, and that is Chaos Rising by Timothy Zahn. This is the first book in the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy, obviously Star Wars. And this was a 5-star. I really enjoyed this. I have been very interested in Thrawn because we meet Thrawn in, I think, is it series 2 or 3 of Star Wars Rebels? And that, like, you don't really get any of his background. He just comes into it as Grand Admiral Thrawn. So it's really interesting to see, like, his past and how he's, like, working his way up to that point in his timeline. But I really enjoyed this. Also, I would just like to say the narrator for this is incredible. So it's Lars Mikkelsen that actually voices Thrawn and is going to be playing Thrawn in live action. And the narrator in this is so good. I actually had to double check because I thought it was Lars Mikkelsen narrating. Because when he talks, like, when he says Thrawn's lines, he literally sounds like Lars Mikkelsen. I was very impressed. So yeah. Next up, we have Spellbound by F.T. Lukens. I've only read this with Jem, like I have done with the other F.T. Lukens books we both own. And oh my god, this was a 5-star. I loved this so much. This was absolutely adorable. I would just like to say the rep in F.T. Lukens books is always incredible, but the rep in this especially was just so good. Like, so good. And I really loved how, I think the main reason I enjoyed this, like, I mean, all 3 of the books I've read by this author so far have been 5 stars, but this one was just on a whole nother level. And I think it's mainly because it's set in our world and our time. Whilst there is a fantasy element, obviously there's magic. It's set in our world. The characters have mobile phones. They go sit in like coffee shops, like I don't think it's actually called Starbucks, but essentially a Starbucks. And it's just a fun time. And it was just adorable. And these two own my heart. I love them so much. Like, I'm not going to stop raving about this book because it's so good. Next up, we have Something is Killing the Children, Volume 3. This was a 5-star. Are we shocked? No. This is my favourite graphic novel series. Nothing's beaten it so far. I am obsessed with this. This one had a few moments where I was like on the edge of my seat, more so than the other 2 parts have. I genuinely have no idea where the last 3 parts are going to go. And I'm fully like, I just want to binge 4 and 5 now, but then I know I'm going to have to wait for 6. So I'm like trying to like stop myself doing that. But this was so good. So good. And I just, if you're into like horror, pick this graphic novel series up because it is just so well done and the artwork is incredible. It's so creepy. So creepy. And now we're back to ebooks. First up, we have Skywalker Strikes Volume 1 by Jason Aaron. I went through this whole thing where I was like, I want to read loads of Star Wars comics and graphic novels. So I got loads from the library on ebook. Because why not? Why not? So this was a 4-star, I think. No, this one was a 5-star. This one was a 5-star. Now, I am probably going to get this so wrong. I think this one is set between episodes 5 and 6. I think. But I really, really enjoyed this. And I actually, just before I started filming, got a notification from my library to say Volume 2 is now available. So it's not on my June TBR, but I'm going to read it next month. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I can't really say anything about it because it is literally just events that are taking place between episodes 5 and 6 that we don't see in the movies. But I think the artwork's really well done. And these are actually from, what year are these ones from? This one's from 2015 by the looks of things. But yeah, really, really enjoyed this. Next up is 2 volumes of the Darth Vader series. So this is volumes 2 and 3. Shadows and Secrets is volume 2 and volume 3 is the Show-Toran War. These both got 4 stars. These are by Kieran Gillen. I read the first volume back in like November and I really enjoyed it. I really, really, really love Kieran Gillen's art style and stories. They're so well done. And I've accidentally managed to like read quite a few things by Kieran Gillen. And these are just really good. I'm really enjoying these. Timeline wise, I can't actually remember where on the timeline this is. It's obviously before episode 6. I think it might be between episodes 3 and 4, but don't quote me on that. Next up, we have The Red Squirrel's Magic by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu. Obviously, a reread for me. I have tabbed it, and can we appreciate there's not much blue here? I didn't cry. I cried like 4 or 5 bits, and even then it wasn't like heaving sobs. It was just like, oh, tearing up, whether it was good or bad. Mostly good, actually, in this song, because it's just so adorable. Because this follows Alec and Magnus, and this is set between the 3rd and 4th More Instruments books. And it's when they go on that little holiday and it's just so cute seeing that. I love them so much. I'm so excited to talk about this and actually have some nice things to talk about in a live show instead of me trying not to cry on live. Makes a change. Next up, we have Aurora Burning by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. And whilst this is a 5-star, I would just like to say to the authors who are never going to see this, but how dare you? I am actually, previously, I was very annoyed at myself that I hadn't continued this series because obviously I'd only read the first book before and then I didn't read this when it came out. I'm so glad I didn't. I would be so annoyed if I had to wait a big amount of time because the 3rd book didn't come out for like a year and a half, maybe even 2 years after this, and I would not be okay with waiting that long. This was so well done. I really enjoyed getting to see a bit more of Zila's character developed in this one. And just getting to see more of the other characters because I just love them all so much and they're adorable and I want to wrap them all in bubble wrap because they deserve to be protected at all costs. Thank you. Next up, we have volumes 1, 2 and 3 of another Star Wars series. This one is by Charles Soule. So the first one is The Destiny Path, the second one is Operation Starlight, and the third one is War of the Bounty Hunters. These were all from 2020, 2021. So these are fairly recent. They are also set between episodes 5 and 6. So little bit confusing, but I think the slightly different art style is helping me, like, you know, keep to which series is which. Why I decided to read multiple different series of Star Wars graphic novels at once, I do not know, but I'm having a fun time with it. All 3 of these got 4 stars. I'm really enjoying the artwork. I'm really enjoying seeing just like Luke and Leia, and Chewie and Lando as well, but like Luke and Leia and C-3PO and R2, and I'm just having a fun time reading these. And I actually have volume 4 from the library as well, so I'll be reading that at some point as well. And then finally, the final book I read in May was The Shadowgate by L.L. McRae. And Lauren is amazing. But I would like to say, how dare you? And I mean that in the absolute nicest way, because the way it ended, I am the opposite of what I am with this, because I actually have to wait for book 3. And I'm really sad that I've got to wait. But this book was incredible. This was a 5-star, which I loved The Iron Crown. But The Iron Crown was a 4-star for me. So already proof that I enjoyed this one a hell of a lot more. I loved the characters, like seeing them move through this. And also getting to see some more of some of the dragon spirits. I really love the dragon spirits. They're so cleverly done. And I'm just obsessed with this series. I already want to reread Iron Crown and Shadowgate, and I actually do think before the 3rd book comes out, I'm gonna reread the first 2. I don't usually do that, but I really want to reread them. Could this be me getting back into higher fantasy? Let's hope so. But I really enjoyed this, and honestly, support indie authors because they give you gems like this. So that was my May reading wrap up. So Royal Readathon wise, I used Something is Killing the Children volume 3 for the Pinocchio and Encanto prompts. I used Only a Monster for the Snow White, Oliver and Company and Hercules prompts. I used Spellbound for Sword in the Stone, Mulan, Atlantis, Tangled and Moana. I used the Red Swirls of Magic for Peter Pan, and I used the Shadowgate for the Aristocats, Lilo and Stitch, and Raya and the Last Dragon. And for my May the TBR Be With You, I did DNF the Kingdom of Back, but it's fine. I still gave it a go, which was my Obi-Wan prompt, a book with mental health rep. I completed my Luke book, a book with a twist, which was Only a Monster. Senator Palpatine, a book with politics, which was Chaos Rising. Echo, a book that had a cover change, The Red Scrolls of Magic. And Boba Fett, a book with revenge, which was Aurora Burning. So onward to June, where I have no readathons and actually might get to mood read. So I'll check back in with you next month, and let's hope next month is just as good as this one was. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye.